When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
This is The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and welcome to the PR Training Lab. This is a series that I do about once a month, give or take, so you can get to know me better, get to know my process better, and maybe even make a training plan on your own for yourself. If you would like to enter to win a free training plan created live here on the show, all you have to do is write an Apple review and then go to theplantedrunner.com/PR lab. Even if you don't want to enter the contest, if you're listening to this right now, please go ahead and write an Apple Podcast review. This is the most important way that you can support this show and keep it going, and it's absolutely free. If you don't want to enter the contest, but you want a training plan, you can get those right away at theplantedrunner.com/plans. You can follow along in the show notes for all the questions that I ask each runner. And we're going to dive right in with this month's episode with a runner named Judy, and she is running the New York City Marathon. Before we get into Judy specifically, I'd like to talk a little bit about New York and its special features and challenges. Full disclosure, I have never run New York City myself, but I have trained hundreds, maybe even thousands, maybe not thousands. I've definitely trained hundreds of runners who are running New York, so I feel like I know it pretty well at this point. It's known for its changing elevation, and that's because you're going over so many bridges between the boroughs, and there is a little climb up at the end on Fifth Avenue. The race begins in Staten Island, and you cross the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, and it's a very epic start of the race. The logistics to even get there are epic in themselves. You are probably going to take public transportation. You're going to take a ferry. It is a long journey just to get to the start line. So that is something you're going to have to prepare for ahead of time. Make sure you know the timing of the race and you know how much travel time you need to get to the start. After Staten Island, the race moves into Brooklyn, and you're passing through a bunch of different neighborhoods: Bay Bridge, Sunset Park, Park Slope, Bedford-Stuyvesant, Williamsburg, and Greenpoint. Then the race heads into Queens. You're going to cross the Pulaski Bridge, and that's about the halfway point of the race, and you'll be entering into Long Island. At this point, you're going to be crossing the Queensboro Bridge into Manhattan, and you'll head north through the borough before entering the Bronx. And a small section of the course does run through the Bronx, and then you're going back into Manhattan. The final stretch takes runners down Fifth Avenue along the east side of Central Park before entering the park itself for the final miles and the finish line. All right, so now you have an idea of what the course is like. It's also iconic because of the crowds and that it is one of the World Marathon Majors. Let's get into Judy's situation and how I am going to make a plan just for her. Judy is 63 years old and she's been running regularly for 10 years. She's American, so we will be talking in miles, but I will try to translate into metric for all of the metric people listening. I ask everybody if they have any current or reoccurring injuries, and thankfully, Judy does not have one. So let's see what kind of runner she is, what kind of paces and races she has run. So I ask, what are your recent race times and distances? And when I say recent, I want to know really the past 6 months. But if you haven't raced in 6 months, hopefully in 12 months. Now, you can give me older race times. Let's say you ran something 5 years ago or even 2 years ago. That can give me a sense of your past talent, but that really doesn't say how fit you are right now. For example, I have run a marathon in less than 3 hours. Could I do that today? Absolutely not, because I'm no longer trained to run that fast. So using my past marathon time would be absolutely unimportant and not helpful. So we want to use race distances to gauge what your current fitness is. Now, if you don't have a recent race, again, recent, the last 6 months, maybe pushing to a year, I would like you to go out and run a mile as fast as possible. For metric, that's 1.6 kilometers. And, prepare yourself, go race it hard and see how fast you possibly could run, or go enter park run or 5K or something like that. And with that, we can kind of extrapolate your paces. So what does Judy say here? So she ran Sydney in 3:46 and Tokyo in 3:49. So Sydney is in August and Tokyo is in March. So we're going to use the Tokyo Marathon because that is the most recent. So she ran it in 3:49. That is about an average of 8:44 per mile pace. In metric, that is 5:25 per kilometer. Now, keep those numbers in mind, and we'll see if how those relate to the other questions that I'm about to ask her. How many miles per week does Judy typically run? And I want to know a typical week. So I don't want to know about your race week. If you ran a marathon last week, don't put 26.2 miles. That's not helpful. I mean, it is helpful to know that you ran a marathon last week because I'll need to schedule recovery, but that is not a training run. So I want to know how much you normally run. So not race weeks or taper weeks. So she said 45 miles. That is 72 kilometers. What is the highest amount of weekly mileage you've ever run? And how long ago was that? She says 55 miles in the summer of 2024. So a year ago. 88 kilometers is the translation there. So a year ago, she was running 55 miles. Right now, she's running 45 miles. So those are really good mileage, weekly mileage for marathoners. You can get away with a little less, and you certainly can do more. The elites are doing over 100. We don't want to get into that territory as mere mortals. But this is a very comfortable, normal mileage for marathoners. So I'm probably going to want to get her into the 50s for the most part. She's already at 45. We are still a few months away from New York. So I would like to repeat that. So, and the other thing that I noticed that the summer of 2024 was her highest mileage. So that would be before Sydney, where she did a little bit better. It doesn't sound like she got all the way up to that kind of mileage before Tokyo. So, and she did not do quite as well. Is it the mileage that cost her the 3 minutes or 2.5 minutes? We will never know, right? But typically more mileage is good up until a certain point. More mileage means more practice running, more aerobic development, more durability on your legs, muscles, and joints and tendons. But obviously you can run too much and get injured. So we want this sweet spot that is lower than that. We definitely don't want to cross the line into injury. So we want to get her up to something that is challenging but doable, where she stays healthy. So I'm going to assume that 55 miles is good for her. So that's what I'll try to work her up to. It might be her max mileage week, or she might kind of stay higher, stay in the 50s for the majority of her training. So 10-mile range between 45 and 55 miles is really not a whole lot of buildup, especially if we're talking about a 14-week race plan. We can build her up a mile a week, but roughly we're not actually going to do that. I like to go up and down with odd weeks and even weeks. So we have higher weeks and lower weeks. So it's not going to be a steady increase in her mileage per week. We're going to go back and forth a little bit, but I'm not really planning on getting her any higher than 55 miles. Which day of the week do you currently run? She says every day but Sunday. So running 6 days a week is a lot. It's a lot for anyone. I'm glad she has a day off, but she does have some pretty impressive times. These times are impressive at any age. The fact that she is 63 years old, these are really fast times. And so I'm not saying we need to change running 6 days a week. If she's happy with it, she says she's not injured, let's keep it there. I think that will probably, for most people, I don't know about Judy, for most people, this is a very heavy load to run this much. But again, she doesn't have insane mileage. She's not, it depends. It's all relative what insane mileage is. But if she's getting enough recovery time, then this could be okay. So if it's not broke, I'm not going to fix it. So if this works for her, I'm going to keep what she's got and again, build her up to 55 miles. Which day of the week do you prefer to run your long run? She says Saturday. How long is your average or most recent long run? She said 13 to 14 miles, which is about 20 to 22 kilometers. This is perfect. This is perfect for the beginning of a marathon training plan. We are probably going to build her up to 20 miles or so for her long run. You could potentially go higher than that, but it's not necessary to go any higher than that. I talk about this a lot. A lot of people put so much emphasis on these really long runs, thinking that is the ticket to a faster marathon. It's part of the puzzle, absolutely. But what you're doing the other 5 days a week has a much greater impact on than what you're doing one day a week. So everything you are doing the other days of the week is going to impact your long run. So you don't need a super long run. And to tell you the truth, if you listen to the podcast last week with Jocelyn Benson, she doesn't run a long run at all. And she still runs marathons twice a year. So you don't need a super long run to run a marathon. But again, Jocelyn Benson is not running for performance. She's just running for the experience. So if you're trying to maximize performance, which I think Judy certainly is, we do want to have a more structured training plan than what Jocelyn would be doing. So little digression there to talk about that. What pace would you say is a very easy effort, a relaxed pace for an average run? This is a pace so slow that you could talk the entire time as easily as walking. So I asked this question because I want to know, are these runners running their long runs too fast? This is very important. And it's even more important with somebody who is running 6 days a week. Now, if you're running 4 days a week or 3 days a week, I don't recommend 3 days a week. I don't think that's enough for a marathoner. But if you are a very typical marathoner running 4 days a week, could you get away with going a touch faster than easy pace? You know what? Maybe you could, because the other 4 days you have off for recovery. A runner like Judy, who is running 6 days a week, it's actually even more important that you slow down those runs to keep them restorative, keep them aerobic, and keep your body in good shape so you're not overdoing your training. Now, what does Judy say? What is her easy pace? She says 9:30 per mile, which is about 5:54 per kilometer. For her fitness, this is too fast. This is actually way too fast, in my opinion. You really want to be running at the very minimum a minute per mile slower than marathon pace. And remember, her marathon pace was 8:44 per mile. So at the bare minimum, she should be running 9:44. But I would say even slower. I think she should be in the 10:15 to 11:15 per mile range. And in metric, that is 6:21 to 6:58. Now, if you want to know why I want my runners to slow down, I feel like I talk about this constantly. I think this is actually the most important concept, or one of the most important concepts in building an aerobic engine so that you can run faster. And that is slowing down your easy runs. So I think, Judy, you're running your easy runs too fast. Try taking those down. And if it really is a time issue, then cut some of your mileage. I think it's more important to slow down your easy runs to truly get the benefit without all the risks. I'll be back with more from the PR Training Lab right after this. The Planted Runner is sponsored by Liquid IV. I know most runners dread summer running, but I've got to tell you, I love it. The long days, the lack of layers of gear, it's just my favorite. But of course, I make it a priority to stay hydrated, and this year, that means Liquid IV. Summer is the perfect time to try their new Arctic raspberry flavor. Plus, Liquid IV has sugar-free solutions powered by Live Hydra Science for smart hydration. You can pre-hydrate before your run, add a stick to your bottle to carry with you, and naturally, you'll want to have it to add to ice-cold water after your run. Just one stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Squeeze the most out of your summer with Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code PLANTED at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with code PLANTED at liquidiv.com. This is the Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and welcome back to the PR Training Lab. Which day of the week does she prefer to run her speed days? She said Monday, Tuesday. Okay, so I hope she means Monday or Tuesday, not Monday and Tuesday. We don't want to be running 2 speed days in a row. So for a Saturday long runner, Monday works great. For a speed day, Tuesday is okay, but it can get a little confusing the rest of the week if we are pushing our speed days back. But I'll talk about what I think a good weekly plan would be for Judy as far as the alternating days. So you always want to alternate your days. You want to have an easy day, hard day, hard day, or the easy day could be placed with rest, or you could have 2 easy days in a row, but you never want to have hard day, or hard day, long run. The exception to this is this steady before the long run, which is a way to make your long run feel more challenging without running the extra miles for your long run. But that is the only exception for when you want to do back-to-back challenging days. You always want to have a really nice alternation with your intensities. What day does she take a full rest day? Sunday. That's perfect. What are your non-negotiables when it comes to training? She says she's flexible. Great. So I'm probably going to switch things up if she is flexible. So what I would like to do for Judy, since she likes to have her long runs on Saturday, I'm going to have her day off be Sunday. So that lines up perfectly. Speed days Monday, which she's already doing. Because she's running 6 days a week, we're probably going to have another speed day every other Wednesday. And the reason it's every other Wednesday is because on the alternating weeks, we're going to run a steady before the long run. So that would be on Friday, the day before her long run. So the day she has the week she has the steady scheduled, we're not going to have the additional speed day. But on the week she does not have the steady, those are kind of a down week when it comes to mileage and the length of your long run. What we're going to do is have more of a track style workout earlier in the week. And then the second speed day will be more of a tempo style workout. What are your favorite kinds of running workouts? Judy loves short speed intervals. Well, that's great. We're going to do those on Mondays for you. And if these really are your favorite kinds of running workouts, Judy, why not try some 5Ks? You didn't mention if you do race shorter distances or if you're just doing marathons, but if you really love the short speed work, I would say take some time off in between marathons and do a shorter race cycle. Really lean into your speed. It will make you a better runner overall, and it will eventually make you a better marathoner if you can really work on that high-end speed. What are your least favorite kinds of running workouts? She says long, slow runs. Uh-oh. This is the bread and butter of the marathon training, is lots of long, slow runs. So I don't know what to say here. If you can find a way to make them tolerable. Obviously, she's an experienced marathoner. She knows she's got to do some long, slow runs. So I recommend either running with friends or getting some entertainment, whether that's podcasts or music or anything to distract you, because you're going to be out there for a long time. There's a lot of time commitment with running marathons, and you're going to have to get used to those long, slow runs. I'm sorry to tell you. What kinds of non-running physical activities do you do? So she does tennis Wednesday morning and evening, and then she does biking 1 to 2 days a week for 1 hour. So if she's doing tennis AM and PM, that is going to be her off day from running. Now, so is she, that's confusing to me, because if she has the off day Sunday and she's doing a double of tennis morning and evening on Wednesday, is she also doing a run? That sounds like a lot. That definitely sounds like a lot. I'm glad she has a full rest day on Sunday, but if she's really doing that, I would not run on the same day I'm doing a double in tennis. I would drop down to 5 days a week of running, and I would do tennis. So tennis is it complementary to marathon training? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it depends on the style of tennis. So tennis is really sort of a stop and go type of activity. It's going to be more anaerobic than aerobic, because you're moving very quickly, then stopping, very quickly, then stopping. It's like you're sprinting and stopping, sprinting and stopping. So it's not really that beneficial to marathon training. It's not something I would recommend you do if you're not already doing it. Is it going to hurt your marathon training? Only if it tires you too much out to run speed the next day. Or the same day, only if it's too much load in general. And of course, with tennis, we think a little bit about injuries because of that sort of stop and start nature. There are some different kinds of injuries you can get from tennis, but in general, tennis is not as injury prone as running in general. But you could keep in the tennis as long as it doesn't affect your running. Biking an hour once or twice a week is, if she's going long and slow, then that actually enhances marathon training. So I think that's good for her, as long as she really is getting the recovery she needs, 100% rest day, at least once or twice a week. Do you strength train? She says yes, 2 to 3 times a week. Perfect. That's exactly what we want to hear. Every marathoner, and to be honest, every person should be strength training if they want to improve their fitness, their metabolic health, their longevity, everything in life. Literally everything in life can be improved with a little bit of strength training, and it doesn't take much. 2 to 3 times a week is perfect. What are your biggest struggles with nutrition? Judy wrote hydration. Okay. Hydration I consider it separate from nutrition. It's sort of its own category, but hydration, she says, is a problem. She doesn't say what her hydration problem is. Is she overhydrating? Maybe she's drinking too much and that makes her have to stop at the bathroom. That is something that happens, especially as we get older, especially to women who have children. There's going to be some hydration issues if you overdo it. Or maybe she is underdoing it because she doesn't want to carry all of her hydration. Maybe her issue is she doesn't like using the cups in a marathon. I don't know what her hydration issue is, but if you're concerned about your hydration and nutrition and you haven't gotten my free guide on how to do this, then what are you waiting for? You can grab it for free. It's a free download at theplantedrunner.com/join, JOIN. And you can get that free guide on all the basics of nutrition and hydration before, during, and after your run if you have questions on that. Again, that free download is theplantedrunner.com/join. I'll be back with more from the PR Training Lab right after this. This is The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and welcome back to the PR Training Lab. Next, I asked Judy, what's your biggest struggle mentally when it comes to success and performance? And she said, believing in myself. Okay. Well, that is honestly very common, and you would think someone who is running the marathon majors would have plenty of confidence, especially a 63-year-old woman who is running that fast of a marathon. I mean, that is very, very fast, again, for anyone, but it's also fast for somebody in their 60s. So, I think that the best way to believe in yourself is to go ahead and do the thing. You don't always have confidence before you actually do the thing. And she's doing the thing. So you would think that she would have a little more confidence that she can actually do it. But sometimes it is what it is. Sometimes you don't believe you can do it. Sometimes even when you have the best training, even when you have experience doing whatever it is in life, sometimes you still have doubt in your mind. And so what I would say is to work on your self-talk. I obviously have lots of resources about how to improve your self-talk as a runner, how to believe in yourself a little bit more. And, the mind will believe whatever you tell it. So if you don't believe you're good enough, that's what the mind is going to believe. If you do believe you're good enough, that's what the mind will believe. So whether it's almost like your brain rewards you for being a little delusional. It's actually true. The overconfident people are the people who get things done in life, and not because they're better than anybody else. It's because they delusionally believe that they can do things before they actually have the proof that they can. And that's actually the key, is doing things before you're ready, having the courage before you have the confidence, doing things, towing the line when you don't know if you're going to make it to the finish line. That is everything when it comes to the marathon, but also in life. So I always kind of hesitate to say this because then people say, oh, it's fake it till you make it. Maybe kind of it's fake it till you make it, but it's truly having faith that everything is going to be okay. And I think that's the most authentic thing you can have. I don't think there's any faking to that. So if you really are struggling with this, Judy, let's have you do some of the mental strength exercises that I teach all the time. Practice those. Go over your logs of all the times that things went well. Remind yourself that you are a talented, experienced runner and you can do hard things because you've proven it. You've already proven that you can do it. What are you hoping to learn or gain in this training cycle? She says, regulating my paces correctly, not overtraining. Okay, this is a key insight. I think you actually can work on your paces better when you're not overtrained, right? I think these two actually go hand in hand. She is doing great at what she has done, right? She's not injured and she's running 2 marathons a year and she's doing very, very well, but she's concerned about overtraining. I don't know why she's concerned about overtraining, but I would suspect that she's bumping up to some issues that overtraining has created, right? So maybe she's not getting recovery. Maybe she's not eating enough. Maybe things are starting to hurt. Maybe, mentally she's exhausted. There's a lot of signs of overtraining that sneak up on you. So I would say if you're worried about overtraining, let's bump that down. Maybe we don't go up to 55 miles. Maybe we stay right at 50. Maybe we only have her run 5 days a week. I definitely don't want her running on Wednesdays if she's playing tennis twice. So unless she's dropping the tennis, I think she should not run on that day. So I really think she should run 5 days a week and not 6. So if we're going to keep her mileage steady and we're going to take away a day of frequency, that would mean her each day would be higher mileage. So we don't want that. So we want to bring it down a bit. So I think after going through all of this, I think I'm going to keep her around 50. We don't need that extra 5 miles a week. Is that going to make a humongous difference in her time? Probably not. If she is feeling fresher and she can run her speed days faster because she's not running those extra 5 miles, then the payoff is worth it. Now, if she has tons of energy, she's nowhere near overtraining, every day is way too easy, then yeah, let's bump up the mileage. But if you're already saying to me, I'm concerned about overtraining, I'm pretty much going to bet you're overtraining. People who are not overtraining aren't worried about that. They're ready for more and more and more and more. Okay. So usually when you suspect you're overtraining, you are. Regulating my paces correctly. Okay. Lots of ways to work on pacing. It's one of the most important skills. Just did a podcast on pacing, I believe 2 weeks ago at this point. Go over that, learn how to pace yourself. And, one of the best ways to teach you how to pace yourself is to go a little bit slower than you think you should. It's a lot easier to hit the mark if you're not straining all of the time. So maybe bump your paces down just a tiny little bit and see if you can hit the mark. Really aim for even splits on your speed days, not as fast as possible. Try to nail each one. Think of them as you're playing darts. You want to hit the bullseye every time. You don't want to go all over the board. You don't want your first one to be fast and then your second one to be slow and then your third one to be fast. None of that, right? The way to learn pacing is to get really precise with it. And if you're struggling outside, get on the treadmill. Okay. Yes, the treadmill is different than outside, but you are going to get perfect pacing and you will start to feel what each pace feels like. Now, the only pace we're really concerned about for marathoners is marathon pace, right? That's the only one that we have to nail as perfectly as possible. All the other paces in training, I want you to work on having fluency with what those feel like. But it's not important that you nail your 400 meters absolutely perfectly to the pace that I assign. What I'd rather see you do on your 400 meter repeats is get the first one and the last one, and honestly, all the ones in the middle, to be exactly the same, or at least as close to it. I don't care if you actually hit the pace. That's not the point. The point is teaching yourself how to regulate your effort so that you can be even the whole time. Because guess what? You're going to need to do that in the marathon. You're going to need to hold back at the beginning when you feel good so that you have enough energy at the end to finish strong. So working on pacing is something that you'll have to do over and over and over again, get better and better at it, practice it as much as possible, practice it every single run, because it really is the most important factor in racing well. And the last question I have for Judy, anything else you'd like to share that would be helpful to your success? She wrote, New York is the 7th star. I'm working on number 8, Cape Town, May of 2026. Okay, so she's talking about the major marathon. So right now they are 7-star. Okay, let me explain. The 6 stars are the original 6 world marathon majors. So that would be New York, Tokyo, Berlin, Chicago, Boston, and London. Those are the original 6 stars of the Abbott World Marathon Majors. Last year, they added a 7th, which is Sydney, Australia. And Cape Town, South Africa, is not officially the 8th star. It is probably going to be next year, but it still has to go through its race this fall in October. So Judy wrote May of 2026. Cape Town is run in October. And when it goes through that this fall of 2025, and if all goes smoothly and it meets all the requirements, then in 2026, it will be the next star. So there's still a medal for the 6 stars. There is no 7th star medal yet. I think what they're doing is they're doing the original 6, and then they're eventually going to have 9 stars, and then you'll get a medal for all the 9. I'm not sure what the 9th one is going to be yet. It's not actually decided yet. So anyway, Cape Town is not yet number 8, but she's planning ahead for the eventuality that probably is going to make it. So New York being her 7th star, that means she's got all the other ones that I've mentioned, which definitely makes Judy a very experienced, very well-rounded runner. And I hope that she's not going to have any trouble believing in herself once she has a solid training plan to get her through the 5 bureaus this November. Well, Judy, if you're listening to this, and I hope you are, I am going to be making you a training plan, and it'll be completely custom to you based on everything I have just talked about, and that will be available to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Planted Runner podcast and the PR Training Lab. If you would like to enter to win a custom training plan for free created live on the show, you know what you have to do. You have to first write an Apple Podcast review. Do that anyway. That's it, everything that I need from you. If you love this show, this is the single most important thing that you can do to help it grow. And then after that, go ahead and try your luck at theplantedrunner.com/PR lab to enter to win, or skip the line and skip the wait and get your fall marathon plan today at theplantedrunner.com/plans.
Thank you for listening to The Planted Runner, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Don't forget that you can enter to win a free custom training plan for your next race and get featured on the show. Just write an Apple Podcast review and enter at theplantedrunner.com/PR lab. Of course, reviews are the #1 way to boost this show's reach, and it's a great way to tell me what you'd like to hear next because I read every single one. Have a great run today.